you're not retiring at 65. Like, don't think you've like hitting 40, so you only got like 20 years of work left. You might as well just stick it out in your job that you don't really like. No, keep changing. My challenge is like each decade of my life, I want to live somewhere else. I want to do a different job. I want to try a different pursuit. I want to see what I can do. And that kind of like change, like you got this one life to live. Why are you sitting in one spot in one job, not challenging yourself, not growing, not learning, not developing? Do more.
This was a really fun podcast episode to be a part of as I chatted to fellow entrepreneur Robyn Davie, who is the CEO heading up Robyn Davie Creative Studio. Now, prior to this episode, I saw on social media that Robyn had relocated from Johannesburg to Hamburg while still running her company in South Africa. So to me, this was incredibly intriguing. I immediately got in touch with her, and within a week we set up this call so that I could get all these burning questions off of my chest. How the heck did she manage to relocate to a European city whilst having a team of 15, juggling multiple roles as a CEO? And the best part, for me at least, was that she was breaking the so-called norm by starting off completely fresh in a foreign country on her own in her mid-30s. That is incredibly inspiring. As we head to our 40s, we really don't need to follow the path of what we think is success. Even in our 20s, by settling in one city, by buying a house, starting a family. Okay, I can literally go on and on, but let's get straight into this episode and enjoy. I've got so many questions already. I'm like, this isn't your first rodeo stint overseas. You've done Los Angeles. Did you do Asia?
I've done Los Angeles. I've done China and Japan. But yeah, this is I feel like this has been the first real like conscious choice of moving overseas, like being fully awake to the process of it and the decision making and stepping into it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so different at this age that we're at, right? It's very different.
Exactly.
You're not doing any little job on the side just to get by like we were when we were young.
Yeah. I never thought I'd be like mid-30s. Like it's just a very unconventional route to take, I think. Like we were supposed to like get your white picket fence, get your mortgage, get your kids, do the whole thing, not be single and 36 and moving across the world. So yeah. A little bit of a different thing to do.
Now I want to hear how we got to that. But firstly, let's maybe rewind a bit. So maybe especially for those who are tuning in, I know quite a few entrepreneurial friends who are going to be so excited to listen to your journey, because it is, although you say it's not conventional, it's super inspiring to not follow the norm of what we expect of ourselves, I suppose, as well. Let's rewind way back in terms of studies and how you actually got into entrepreneurship.
It's a really good question, because it never felt like something that was determined or like thought out or planned or anything. I just kind of, it makes it sound so like easy to say that I fell into it, but sometimes these like steps kind of line up and you find yourself moving from one space to another. I studied a BA corporate communication. I majored in psychology, which definitely isn't entrepreneurship, but have been skill sets that have definitely helped me with marketing and advertising and human behavior and body language and all of that. I've always been like, there's always been some kind of side hustle of selling something and making something and like something going in the background, whether it was like jewelry or vintage clothing, little projects, little things going on. And always loved like hanging out with my friends who ran their own businesses and chatting to them and be like, okay, cool, let's strategize, let's make a thing happen here. And then living in Los Angeles about 10 years ago was the first time a friend came up to me and he said, I need headshots. He was an actor. Obviously, we were in LA. And I was like, okay, cool. I have a camera. I kind of know how to use it. I don't really know what I'm doing. But yeah, I took some terrible headshots of him. Absolutely terrible. But this kind of spark ignited. And I was like, all right, this is pretty cool. I didn't know people would like pay you for something that you were just passionate about, that you just did as a fun thing on the side. And yeah, then catapulted 10 years later, here we are, 15-member team, huge business growth, multiple revenue streams, different offerings. So it's great.
That is it's so funny to me sometimes, because there's a lot that I can relate to, and I'm very similar in always, especially when chatting to people about starting businesses, I get so passionate and like wound up and I want to be involved and I just want to start all these things and be involved. But when I hear someone else say it, it sounds like a bit overwhelming because I feel like, how did you get there? I know people listening might feel the same, especially those entrepreneurs who are struggling to balance stepping away from their business and getting external help. Like, how did you get to the point of building a team and having 15 employees? Like, how did you ever have any investments or funding, or how did you navigate that?
Yeah, I actually wish there was more support. Looking back in hindsight now, and like the conversations I'm having with people now, like I would love to create something that does offer more support, especially to female entrepreneurs and business owners, because I just bumped my head along the way. I think I had like 2 business coaching sessions way back when, and otherwise it was just like, okay, let's try this and see if this works. Oh, it doesn't work. Let's try something else and see if that works. Oh, that failed miserably. In terms of investments and funding, there wasn't any of that at all. It was just taking a small client base and a small project line and slowly scaling it up, starting to take on people even before I was ready, of that risk of going, okay, I need to free up my time. I got to that point of like age 26, 27. I was like, I've reached a financial ceiling. I cannot make any more money. I'm working 7 days a week, sometimes 13, 14, 15 hours a day. I'm shooting, I'm editing, I'm admin, I'm marketing, I'm creative direction, I'm financial direction. I'm doing everything within my company. And it just doesn't make sense anymore. I was burnt out. I was exhausted. And then I was like, okay, whatever this is going to cost me, I need to start taking on people. I need to see that as an investment that I'm making in my own business and in myself. I need to be able to separate myself and my ability to make high-level decisions from training and mentoring a team and giving them the roles and tasks that are incredibly time-consuming and that I don't need to be doing, basically.
Wow. And so you obviously started small and started with what you could afford to outsource financially and capacity.
Yeah, exactly.
That's incredible. And then, so just for those listening, of course, so photography was sort of the basis of where you started off with, and then you opened up your studio in 2021.
Yeah, so kind of the pandemic was actually this catalyst for change for us. We obviously went into lockdown. Every single shoot was cancelled. Our entire revenue source just dried up within a couple of weeks. I have never been so panicked in my whole life. And we went, okay, we've got to do something. What can we do? What other skill sets does our team have? Graphic design, which is an easy one for photographers. They tend to have gone to some kind of college or university that teaches them graphic design as well. So that was easy to kind of pivot into that. And then one of the natural light studios that we were using during the pandemic as well closed down. So it left this gap in the market. We were suddenly stuck with no exterior places that we could shoot in, no safe areas that we could shoot in. We couldn't shoot in parks anymore. We couldn't shoot at restaurants. We couldn't really go to people's homes anymore. So to create a studio that was this big wide open space with these big pivoting doors, a lot of airflow that we were allowed to shoot in was the best option. So even, it was January 2021. It was a terrifying time. We didn't know if this was going to work or not. I pretty much took all the furniture from my own apartment to decorate the studio because that was what the budget allowed at that time. And January as well. No one has money in January. So it was a huge risk. But yeah, we are 2.5 years later and the studio is going strong. So it paid off.
Wow. Yeah. I think why your story is also so inspiring is because you're one of the few creatives, like I don't want to put everyone into the same bracket, but especially the creatives who I'm very good friends with and who run their own businesses, even up until the point that they've been doing it for 10 years. They're just doing it themselves and struggling to sort of get by. And sometimes I've got to wonder, like, have you just been really business savvy and fortunate in that sense as well? Like not just a creative, because sometimes, you feel like the creatives say that they're lacking in the other areas of like managing money. And because I'm fascinated at how you made it work and built a team and from coming from photography and then scaling in the creative world. It's really impressive.
Yeah. Thank you. I think it's a multi-pronged kind of answer to your question, because first of all, that like creative brain and math brain has been completely debunked. I think a lot of creatives fall back on that as their kind of excuse, like, oh no, I just want to make art and stuff. I don't know how business works. My brain doesn't work like that. It's complete bullshit, if I can say that. But yeah, we know that our brains are capable of doing both, of handling the creative side and the business side of stuff. It's just about actually challenging yourself to do it and actually upskilling and doing some courses and getting online and figuring out the ways to run your own business. And then I think the second option, the second answer, and again, I'm calling bullshit, because it's these creatives who do have this kind of like, I'm a special snowflake, and I'm the only person who can answer emails the way that I can and edit photos the way that I can and run the business the way that I can. But actually, there are potentially people out there. They're not potentially, there are definitely people out there who can do these aspects of your job and your business even better than you can. My photographers take better photos than me. My editors edit photos better than I do. My admin team answer emails better than I do. And that frees me up to be like, okay, cool. What else can we bring in? What other revenue sources are there? What other opportunities and spaces can we grow in? So it is almost like a bit of an ego check, I think, to say, actually, you know what? There are going to be people that are better at this than me. And isn't that an exciting chance? Isn't that a great opportunity to train someone and mentor someone and make them grow and bring them into your business?
Oh, totally. That's so, so true. Sometimes now that you've said that and calling bullshit, it's not just applicable to creators, it's also a lot of entrepreneurs. I think there's this, I don't know if it's like those limiting beliefs that they have, that they almost like to suffer and do it all themselves sometimes.
We get this obsession with like hard work, and if it's not hard, if you're not working that 16-hour day, you're not doing it right. Exactly. And that's completely the incorrect approach to have. It should be smarter work, not harder work.
Totally. And especially for us at our age, I think we've lived through that. Like if I look back at my London days, that was 100%. You had to graft and work hard and put in the late hours and be exhausted, and your sort of health and nutrition had to take a sidestep because that wasn't as important. And it was, it was a total different era that we were exposed to, which I'm grateful for.
Yes. No, I think we needed that in our 20s. Like you do need that kick in your ass, and you do need to see like what hard work actually looks like. I think you have to go through the hard work to come out the other side and see what smart work is. So it's a journey.
100%.
Yeah.
Totally. And now also I've actually, when I was consulting at a business, also working with younger sort of employees, it's interesting to see how they enter the workspace and how they push back and go, no, actually that's after hours. I need to look after my mental health. And then on the one side I respect it, and on the other side I'm like, oh my gosh, you don't know how lucky you have it. Like I didn't know what the hell mental health was when I was 23 and grinding and crying at night because I wasn't happy in my job.
Yep. I do love how fun and exciting Gen Z is. They're a great generation, and that kind of perspective that they have is awesome. But I do struggle to hire them, or at least to retain them even as team members. Yeah. And it's frustrating because we go through the process of onboarding and training and mentoring, and then 3 weeks later it's like, oh, you need me to come to work like every day? I can't be there for that. And you're like, oh, okay. I'm so glad we put in all the effort of training and onboarding you, and you're done.
Gosh. Okay, so your team is still in Joburg.
Yes.
Why did you move exactly, and why did you move to Hamburg? Like, I need all the deets.
So I have wanted to move to Europe probably for about 5 years now. I've been trying to find every possible avenue of studying or working or whatever there is, every digital nomad visa I've been looking into. I feel like I know more about every country in Europe, how to get into it right now, and which one is the hardest and the easiest. Germany, as it turns out, is one of the easiest ones. And it had never been on my radar. I'd actually had never been to Germany before until October last year. Been to a lot of Europe, but Germany was always just like, oh, no, it was never appealing. Came in October. It's beautiful. It's really lovely. It's first world living, of course, but it works and sufficient. I want to make the point, but they have electricity here, which is really quite mind-blowing. Like all the time there's electricity, which is just, it's magical. It's really lovely. So after my trip in October last year, I was like, okay, let's see what this process is. And I applied and I got a freelance visa within 3 months and sold everything that I owned, packed a few suitcases and got on an airplane and moved to Germany.
Oh my word.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That really is awesome. And so you have a few friends where you're staying as well, right? So you know people.
So it's nice because my cousin moved here last year, so I have a little bit of family support, which was great. Already getting here and at least having somewhere to stay for the first couple of nights and having someone who knows the lay of the land kind of thing. And then I moved into a flat share, which was actually awesome. I think there's something really great. I've been living by myself for like 6 years and it's actually really fun having flatmates again and making meals together. And I got really lucky and got really amazing flatmates. So we've become friends, which has been really awesome. And it's just been nice. I've actually been so blown away by how friendly everyone is. I made a friend on the train the other day. I've been like making friends here and there and I've already built up like a really nice group of friends and a nice network as well, meeting some other CEOs and people in business. And so it's crazy that it's been 2.5 months, but it feels like it could have been 2 years already.
Jeepers. And then, so how are you operating? Are you still doing exactly what you were doing, but just remotely?
Yeah, so I wouldn't have been able to leave if I wasn't at the point of such confidence in the team that I have. And that's what I said to them when I left. Like the managers and the supervisors, everyone is so top notch right now. We've never had such a beautiful, cohesive, succinct team, and being able to know that I can 100% leave and trust them and know that they know what they're doing. They can run things. They were just like, okay, bye, get on a plane kind of thing. Why are you still here by the end? So it was nice to have that confidence and to be able to step away. And then basically, whether I'm running my business from my apartment in Johannesburg or an apartment here in Hamburg, it's the same thing. We're in the same time zone, which is helpful. We do our Tuesday mornings as our Teams meetings. We jump on and chat to every department of the business. And it's been pretty streamlined and easy.
Wow. Okay, so this is a question that I know other people also have. How are you making entrepreneurship work in Europe on a South African income, or do you have overseas clients as well?
Yes, this is a very good question, especially since even though I sold everything before I left, I brought all that money over here and it basically just disappeared when you transferred it into euros. I was like, I've sold my car, I've sold all my furniture, all this money, and I can buy like one cappuccino when I get to Europe. So no, it hasn't been the easiest transition, and my business has taken a knock this year with what's going on with the economy in South Africa and load shedding and Eskom. So it's definitely been one of the toughest financial years we've had, and not the easiest time to move to the currency of euro during that. But I think mostly I'm giving myself a little bit of space and a little bit of breathing room. So it has only been a few months since I've arrived. I have started talking to people. I've built up a website and a social media page for our offerings here. I've actually already started chatting to a couple of photographers about potentially joining my team here. But it's also nice just to kind of settle in a little bit and recalibrate and get used to the European lifestyle and try and get a little bit of understanding of the industry here as well.
Oh, that's amazing. And you definitely have got such a business savvy, not only like energy, but also mindset and how you work. Like you literally, I don't know a lot of people that will be able to create what you've created in South Africa and then basically go overseas and start from scratch with building again. So that's impressive.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, that's so wonderful to hear. Thank you. Sometimes we're just like in the trenches, and it's really nice to get that feedback.
Yeah, especially when you're in it yourself.
You're doing this as well. You're hustling and you're showing up. I'm always blown away by like your content, everything you're putting out. I'm just like, dang, it's just inspirational. Yeah, it's amazing.
Thank you. I think that's the thing about what we put out there. We can, especially coming from a PR marketing background, you can put it in such a pretty sort of presentable manner when it comes to content, even in written form, like the way we can write our bios and get people to write, like do little entrepreneurial stories about us. It always sounds more magical than obviously what it is behind the
slog.
scenes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I do find what you taking on so incredibly admirable, because there's so much of discomfort that you're pushing through, and that at our age often I lean towards the comfort, and it's only when I force myself to sort of adapt and do things like I really do not like showing up on camera, for instance. It's just not fulfilling for me. I've never been someone who wants to be like in front of the camera and be a presenter. It's way more satisfying when I shift the focus and it's about the conversations that I get to have with people like you, and then I can create content to put this out there and publicize and put the spotlight on other people. That gets me going. So how do you operate in terms of when you say you are looking at other photographers to sort of join your team? Are they independent photographers that then just work with underneath your umbrella?
Yeah. So my entire strategy has been that every photographer is an associate photographer. They all generally have their own businesses or their own side hustles, or potentially they actually don't want that. They don't want to do all the marketing and advertising and admin. They like to just rock up, have that kind of creative fulfillment of doing the shoot and knowing that all the admin is taken care of by someone else. So it works either in that way, or they are running their own thing, but then they still get the training and mentoring of being part of our team and just the team feeling and experience of it. So it works really nice.
How did you come about putting that structure together? Was it something that you experienced elsewhere or seen elsewhere?
I had seen it overseas. I'd seen it overseas on a couple of websites, and it just made sense at that time when I was again hitting that financial ceiling and needed to bring on more people and kind of diversify a little bit. And yeah, it's worked as a strategy so far.
It's very cool. And what does your day-to-day look like now? Are you mostly indoors, behind your screen, grafting away?
Yeah, it's still a lot of time behind my computer, but one of my aims of moving to Europe was to get a better work-life balance and to be able to step out from behind the computer a little bit more, or even just be able to take it with me to coffee shops and feel safe, which I'm doing, and that feels really nice. Trying to get a bit more exercise in, which is really nice. Hamburg right now, obviously we're in the middle of summer and it's green and it's beautiful and there's canals everywhere and lakes. So we go boating, we go walking in forests. There's lots of lovely outdoor activities and picnics and barbecues. So yeah, it's nice to get a bit more balance in there and meet friends in coffee shops and yeah, just feel a little bit more like that quality of life has improved, which was my main aim of moving here.
So. You are selling it to me.
You packing your bags and jumping on a plane.
I do have an Italian passport, so
come visit.
I know. I'm looking for things. I was actually looking at doing another trip for both for work and pleasure in September, and then when you can't actually look at the exchange rate because it's scary. And then I convinced myself by going, I'm not going to eat 3 meals a day. I'm going to cook at my Airbnb and just go out for one meal and just have like 2 Aperols, but we know that doesn't happen.
It's never going to happen. Yeah, it's way too much fun. Yeah, and you want to buy all the things and jump on the trains and the scooters, and yeah, it's adds up very quickly.
No, exactly. But I do, yeah, that's European living. I think it's such a incredible chapter that you've opened up for yourself, even if you do end up, moving back to South Africa in a year or 2 or never. It's such a privilege to be able to have this experience at like our age.
Yeah, big time. And I think that was one of the main motivating factors is being aware of what's happening to the South African economy, being aware of what's happening to my business right now. Like I say, we've never had such a tough financial year. We are downscaling the team. So as much as we say, like, there's all these great things happening and it's fantastic to sit and drink Aperol spritz in the streets of Europe, there's also that balance of like an awareness of what's going on back home, and what's saying to my team continuously, like, upskill, take more courses, improve your CVs. We actually don't know what the future is going to hold in terms of the South African economy, and it's a weight definitely to bear every day. And yeah, just last week I was having individual meetings with each team member and saying, what are you doing? How are you improving yourself? Like, what's your next step? What can we add to your CV? Because that's important as well. Like, we need to continuously be improving themselves. I'm actually currently putting together an application for a master's degree here in Hamburg as well. So it's this ongoing learning opportunity, and we must never stop learning.
No, 100%. And while we've got the energy to, I mean, now we really tap into it. I'm doing exactly the same, like about women's physiology, anatomy, and things
That's amazing. Well, if you can get like a certification or accreditation along the way and add it onto your CV, I think the thing to think about and what I'm aware of now is looking back to where I was in my 20s when I didn't have this kind of awareness. And I wish I'd actually studied a little bit more then, but I wasn't in the right mindset for it. And now when I go, okay, cool, what am I doing now that's going to set me up for the next 20 years? Like doing a master's degree now is going to be great for the next 20 years of development that I'm looking into. So yeah, if we can always look further ahead than we even expect, it's a powerful thing to do.
Yeah, and I think a key thing that can come from this conversation is that it really never is too late to completely uproot, shift, and change, because I've got a lot of friends who are turning 40 this year, sitting with 2 kids in a career that they've wanted to move out of, but because, and it's scary to actually think, I've been like best friends with a group of girls since we were all in our 20s, and now we're heading towards a lot of them turning 40 and wanting to do career changes and feeling like they're completely stuck. They've got the responsibility of kids. Like, how do they do it? But I do feel like, calling bullshit. Like,
do it.
Do it now, because there's never going to be the right time. Like, even when we started our journeys, there are all these sacrifices that you have to make. And you just have to plan ahead. I think the best advice that, and I've been chatting to someone who's wanting to leave corporate, has been to just like, now you can't be irresponsible by just quitting your job and jumping into entrepreneurship, but you can plan around it. You can on weekends put in the effort, start building, start having a structure going for your business so that you can sort of, as smooth as a transition can be, kind of exit and start this business that you want to do.
Absolutely. Scale down to part-time, have a good strategy around it, speak to some business coaches, have a really good plan. And
I think the other thing that people also struggle with is what else to do. If I chat to friends who are in the liquor industry wanting to get out, like what else can they do? Because this no longer serves their lifestyle. But if I look back as well, I'm doing now something that I didn't do 3 years ago. Like one of the revenue streams, the main revenue streams that I'm getting in now, is invested in a business that it's completely new to me. So I think that's the benefit also of being entrepreneurs. Like you also say, is there's this massive risk, but because you're an entrepreneur and you have to be like agile and flexible with your business structure, when things do happen and shit hits the fan, like 2020, you can completely pivot, change, find new revenue streams, go into a field or almost explore skills that you've never tapped into before. And I think that's the great thing about entrepreneurship, giving you that, capability that you can do that.
Yeah. And I think it's also, to take it a step further, that it shouldn't be this thing that people can only do in their 20s and 30s. Like we need to change our mindset about this whole like, oh, you hit 40, you're like over the hill, you're heading towards retirement in 20, 25 years. We know that this is not the case anymore. Our generation is set to live to 130, like healthy, fit, amazing lives to 130. You're not retiring at 65. Like, don't think you've like hitting 40, so you only got like 20 years of work left. You might as well just stick it out in your job that you don't really like. No, keep changing. My challenge is like each decade of my life, I want to live somewhere else. I want to do a different job. I want to try a different pursuit. I want to see what I can do. And that kind of like change, like you got this one life to live. Why are you sitting in one spot, in one job, not challenging yourself, not growing, not learning, not developing? Do more.
Your life sounds like, that's what a rich life is about. That's, and that's why I'm also was so open to moving to Potchefstroom. I mean, it's not my location of choice, but what it's offering us for this time of our lives and stepping away from city living, I'm like, whoa, like if I go back and visit, everything's pretty much the same. And there's so much comfort in being in the city that I grew up in. So by removing myself from it, there's so much that I've done that I've also, like you, I've never wanted to do. Back when I was younger, I was not an academic. It was all about sports, and I didn't want to, when I had friends who just kept on doing like courses and upskilling, I was like, what's wrong with you? Just go get into the working world and like
exactly. Yeah. Why are you just endlessly studying? now we want to do it.
Exactly. Now I want to do it all. Now also, I suppose I can retain information a lot better because I know more or less what my passions are, where in my 20s, I didn't really know I was so influenced. What would you say this is something that I'm just interested in my own life. What impact would you say continuously having to create content has on your like relationships or just your way of being, like having this strategy mind that's often looking at, recreating strategic content?
Oh, the content beast, hey. Is there like a love-hate relationship, more hate than love that I have with online platforms like Instagram and Facebook, and now we've got Threads coming out as well. And I'm just like, no, why? We don't need another one. I'm pretty sure, 1,000% sure that we don't need another one. I think it's a tricky one. So we finally feel like we've actually mastered it in the last few months, which is quite insane to say after 10 years of running a business, to feel like we've only just mastered our marketing strategy in the last few months. But it has taken coming up with some really good content calendars, like really digging deep on repurposing and reusing content, and just getting really strategic in terms of what we're putting out there, instead of just creating stuff because you're there and something's happening and it looks kind of cool. Like, I don't want my life to be like that. I'm more about living in the moment and actually just enjoying it than being like, which camera angle should we get for this and how's this going to look good? But yeah, it does come down to really looking ahead to the year ahead and being like, okay, what milestones do we want to hit? What touch points do we want to get to? What are our biggest revenue drivers? Knowing which products and services have the highest profit margins on them, and knowing that we should be pushing those ones the most, and then formulating a strategy around that.
That's a good answer. I like that.
And we've just released online courses about this exact thing. So this year has been a fun little step into the world of creating online courses and now being able to sell them and being able to, my thing is just empowering other entrepreneurs, especially female business owners, and being able to say, I've got all this information in my head. I've spent 10 years bumping my head against the wall, learning as I've gone along and making so many mistakes and so many mess ups. But maybe you don't have to make as many mistakes if you have a look at these online courses, and it's marketing and branding and client management and profit power and all these things that you need. And they're quite holistic approaches as well, which I've really enjoyed putting that in.
I saw your courses. It's really impressive. I love following your work journey and to see what how you guys are constantly evolving. It's really, really awesome.
Thank you.
We briefly touched on in the past, I know you said like reaching a point of almost like burnout and massive stress experiencing 2020. What was like sort of the worst when it came to periods of anxiety through your own entrepreneurship journey? What was the sort of worst period that you almost went through, and what was the cause, and how did you push through?
Surprisingly, actually, it was the beginning of this year that was literally the worst. Last year, we had our best financial year we've ever had, like post-pandemic, that kind of boom of business that came out of it, which was great. Pandemic, of course, was stressful, but we didn't have actually as high costs as we do now because we were just running the photography business. It wasn't this whole big studio expense, photo book software that we pay for every month, such a big team. But we entered the beginning of this year and there was a financial downturn like I have never seen. January is normally quiet, but I think everyone in every industry was panicking. And yeah, it was a really tough few months to start off the year. Not a great space to be in at all. And sat down and had some really frank conversations with the team where it was like, I actually don't know if we're going to survive this. We went into the red, and it's a scary place to be in, especially when you are just still a solopreneur who doesn't have any financial backing for this, who's just kind of making it go from month to month to month. And I actually don't feel like we're out of the woods yet. So to answer the end part of your question of like, how did you find your way out of it? We still feels like we're in it. I still feel like Eskom is killing my baby basically every day, which is a terrible feeling to have. But we offer a luxury kind of item that people don't need in their life. It's certainly not essential, and definitely it's one of the easiest things that people cut out when they don't have budget for extra purchases at the end of each month.
Gosh, it's so different. Operating in South Africa, and like you said, it's never too late, or whether it's age-wise or how far your business is, to look at sort of other avenues. I got off a call with an Italian company, and it was also for luxury products importing into South Africa for one of my side businesses. And it was just this completely different experience talking to them about this product offering that's so niche and premium, and then coming from a third world country and the electricity crisis that we're going through. There are opportunities, of course, but there's definitely, and we have to diversify and change how we operate and look at other ways of working. You're so lucky being in Europe again and having electricity.
I mean, it's making a big difference for me personally, but it's not helping my team, who still are sitting through load shedding, and our studio is still going through load shedding. So it's that kind of balance of how can we make the business more virtual. We're obviously looking at AI at the moment, the impact that's going to have on our business. And there's some tough calls to make, and it's definitely a challenge. It has not been a smooth sailing year.
No, that was the other thing that I'm going to ask you about AI as well. It's crazy to see. I spoke to one of my photography friends was saying that AI, I don't know if it's already been come out with it or not, but how they can, AI can learn the way that you specifically edit the photographer and then help you as your business. Basically, you're teaching your AI how to edit like you do, and then that sort of alleviates a lot of hours of you editing behind the screen. So it's crazy to see what AI still has coming out.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's exciting, but it's also scary at the same time. I had a meeting with some of my core team members a couple of weeks ago where we started the conversation about AI, and I had to say to them, you're each researching a section of the business, so like admin and organization and photo editing and video editing, that could possibly replace your job. That's a very interesting place to be in, to say, cool, find out how great AI is that it might possibly replace you. So it's an awkward positioning to be in, but there's incredible opportunities, and hopefully it means that instead of taking people's jobs, it creates more jobs. That's the thing. If you can do more and faster and more efficiently, it's a pretty good deal.
And supports more entrepreneurs. I think that's the other thing. When I was chatting to one or two people wanting to start their own business,
that delivery. Good service, yeah.
The 200 Rand coffee you got delivered right there.
Yes, exactly. That's 350. Don't worry.
Cheapest.
No, I don't think it's that. I've stopped converting because
why did you add almond milk? Because then it would
probably.
And then in terms of with everything, you've got a lot of juggling a lot of balls, running a team, a successful entrepreneur, pushing through, pivoting. When it comes to your personal life, do you have any, I know we're always reading up about all these people's healthy rituals and healthy habits. Is there anything that you swear by? Or
I want to be yes, absolutely. I'm meditating 12 hours a day and exercising nonstop. But I think it's I hope it's more of a myth than we think it is, that these entrepreneurs who are getting up at 4:00 in the morning and meditating for an hour and then exercising for an hour and then getting to work and everything. I just don't think it's actually viable. Look at the service in the space.
What'd you get now? A croissant.
That's amazing. Just getting a good Airbnb rating.
Oh.
5 stars. But no, I think it's also really important to cut oneself some slack as an entrepreneur. I think that kind of mindset of you have to be doing it all and doing that meditation, breath work, and then working and batch working and all of these things. Most days are just chaotic. That's it. I think if you can find even just a moment in the day when you can sit and you can take a break and you can try and create more healthy habits throughout your workflow and work day. I think if you can actually close your laptop at the end of the day and turn it off. I say this, but even last night I closed my laptop at 11 p.m. So it's not great. Probably the best one that I've done is just injecting more positivity into my thinking, and there's been a lot of personal growth over the last 5-6 years of hypnotherapy, meditation, of really digging deep and doing some retreats and yoga and just trying to get to the point of being really healthy in my brain So even when stressful things come along, even when we have to downscale the team or we hit these financial curveballs, it isn't all consuming. You can still have good conversations like this one. You can still see the bright and the light and the happiness and figure out solutions and plans going forward. It doesn't all have to be darkness and despair. And that's purely just from how you're getting your brainwaves to head in the right direction.
Yeah, that's a new, very big area of focus for me. I'm like a big Huberman, near the neuroscientist podcast fan, and a lot of it goes like in and out because I can't retain the terminology he uses, but so much of it, like you say, it's not necessarily about the daily habits. If you do have, great, but a lot of it's more, like you say, the constant journey of growth through these hard times and how you are managing it and what sort of resources you're tapping into at those periods. I also find it funny that a lot of the books that I've read with these rituals that they talk about, a lot of the times it's either entrepreneurs that have already made it from a financial point of view, so that they don't have that stress of constantly being behind the computer. So they've got, so they're wanting to be more productive with their hours, so they can sit and do the ice bath, the late gym, the fasting.
Absolutely. They're like the Mel Robbins of the world who are just like, yeah, no, it's so great. You should get up to like an hour of that, an hour of that. And it's like fantastic. You have a team of like 300 people who are running your business. Obviously, you have the luxury of living your life like that. And sure, we all want to get to that point. But in the meantime, trying to incorporate some small little bits and pieces of it along the way is really good as well.
100%. Yeah. And the Mel Robbins and all those people, they've got a lot of years behind them where they weren't able to do that. So we must be careful of not comparing.
Exactly. Yeah. It's amazing the success that they've achieved and that you can get to that point. Yeah. Hopefully we can all do that. It'd be incredible.
Totally. I was going to ask you more about resources that you tap into for sort of self-development and self-growth or business growth, but I know you've mentioned retreats and you've mentioned you're studying now your master's. What are you doing your master's in?
It's a Master's of Science in Innovation, Entrepreneurship, and Sustainability.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
Well, we'll see. I'm like submitting my application this week, so that's all touching wood and everything like that. We'll see what happens. But yeah, it's a bit of a process. But the idea is obviously to build a bit of a network and actually to be able to create something that does have more support. And that it has been a very long and lonely journey as an entrepreneur. And I think there's not enough in terms of platforms and experiences and places where you can be treated almost holistically as an entrepreneur, instead of it just being about your spiritual health or your business growth or whatever it might be. But let's see like what can be facilitated for you as a whole, to be held and be supported.
That's exciting to have that support. I'm like itching for a network of like-minded people, because I might be able to find it from a business perspective. Yeah, like if I search hard enough, but from in a small town and sort of the systems and how things are, you know what I'm talking about. You might not find the like-minded woke so-called people.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And I don't want to use the stereotype, but I think it's true of the little boys club, that it exists in like the man's world, but we don't really feel it in a female entrepreneurship kind of space, of having that kind of supportive network and having mentors and people to look up to who have in their 40s and 50s and 60s, and they've been doing this for years and they have all this information to share, but I just don't know. I don't know how we're tapping into it or where we're getting it or where we're accessing it. So it's certainly what I'm trying to do for other female entrepreneurs. But yeah, it would be good to have that insight from more people and that support and that network.
Completely. Yeah. And my last question was, at what point do you feel, and I feel like after I've had the conversation with you now, I kind of know the answer. I'm not sure there is an end point, but at what point do you feel that you can sit back more, maybe work half days, not grind as hard? Like, what do you feel like you want to achieve before you can have more of a, don't want to say balance, but more of a stepping back from your business and enjoying more other things in life, more hobbies?
Yeah, I think it's kind of starting to open that box right now. Like definitely the last few months in Europe, but it is also because I've been giving myself the space and the breather to do that. Of working maybe not a half day, but a 3/4 day of making sure I am prioritizing my physical and mental health. I think it's taken a decade of running my company to get to the point that my team is really strong and they know what they're doing. and being able to step back a little bit from that and be like, no, you guys, you've got this. Like, it's fine. I'm about to go on holiday for 2 weeks. And we know, like, the term holiday as a business owner is a tricky one, because obviously you're still taking your computer and your phone with you. You're always going to be on call to answer those tough questions and make those high level decisions. But I do plan to rest a little bit more and have a bit more of a break. But then again, I'm about to go and do this Masters of Science and study. And so it goes in roundabouts, but it does feel like it's heading more in that direction of not feeling like this endless struggle of wake up super early, work for 14 hours, go to bed, do the same thing the next day. So yeah, I don't know if there's a succinct answer in there to your question.
No, it definitely is. It definitely is. I feel like we're in very similar phases of our careers as well. And I think, like you say, it almost comes with that that decade of really grinding, figuring out, having challenges, going through really big lows and coming out on the other end to get to this point where you can reevaluate and step back a bit and go on those holidays and maybe enjoy a holiday a little bit more than you used to be able to.
Be able to step away from your computer a little bit more.
Exactly.
Yeah. So for you feel like you're getting to that point as well. You're at that point.
I feel like I am. I think a big shift was this incubator, which I mentioned that I'm in at the moment, because there's no family here. My core friendship group isn't here. The closest of friends that we do have, they're an hour to 2 hours drive away in Joburg. So we really put down, whenever we go through a little bit of a dip, we're calling it Project Porch. And we're here with like a goal, and we're here with like heavy manifestations that we've been putting out there for future life that we want. And at the moment we're on a good, in a good rhythm of achieving things. So I think for now we're in a good season, and I am able to step away and have a lot more of a so-called balance or switching off from work, which I didn't have in the city. So because so many of my city distractions aren't here.
Yeah. So you're outside of hustle culture, which is good. It's one of the benefits of small town living, right?
Exactly. And because I grew up in hustle culture, and then my stint in London was also even glorified hustle culture. So this is a very refreshing space to be in, and to realize, who do I want to be when I move back to Cape Town, because that's what we want to do. Like, where do we want to live? What do I want to create work-wise? What sort of lifestyle do I want to create? So that's all in Project Porch in the making.
I love it. One of my friends phrased it so well at dinner last night, where she said, like, to actually get the chance to discover what your natural rhythms are. To not be like, I've got to be at my desk at 9 a.m. I've got to work, I've got to do this thing, then I go for a cycle, then I do a thing. To actually just give yourself the space to be like, what time would I naturally wake up? Like, what would I want to do when I get up? How many hours would I actually want to work a day? What would I want to get out of that? It's a nice way to like look at it and phrase it and like feel into your space and feel into your body and feel into your business, instead of just having to hustle nonstop. It's not healthy.
No, and that's a really nice way of phrasing it. I feel that for the first time in my life, I've got so much peace and contentment to create a lot of my own rhythms. Like, for instance, this morning, for me, it's very important to be able to like sit down for a podcast chat and to not have, a whole bunch of tabs open, a whole bunch of things on my to-do list to action in the morning, because I just tell myself like, energy needs to go here, and so have a bit of a lie-in, go for a longer walk, because I know if I come back and I sit behind my computer, I'm going to be doing 101 other things, and then suddenly go, oh gosh, have to connect, I'm on a call right now. So
well, that's what I did. So I was guilty as charged in terms of that. Literally up until like 2 seconds to 11, I was still replying to team messages and emails and doing things. But yeah, it's guilty as charged on that one.
Well, from my side, from the host perspective, I feel like I have to operate a lot more of like strategy behind.
Get into that mindset. Yeah.
But it was so nice chatting.
It's been the best. It's just to see your face again. Oh my gosh.
We'll stay in touch, and you enjoy your croissant.
Thank you. I'm quite excited about it. It's looking really good.
Hey guys, it's me again. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please can you subscribe so that you are notified as soon as new episodes drop, and share the Stream podcast with your friends and family and co-workers who are just as inquisitive as you are about learning and improving their quality of life. And then lastly, if you want more mental health and business resources, inspo, and podcast recommendations, just a reminder to subscribe to my monthly Stream newsletter. No spam, just pure positive value delivered straight to your inbox.